The eternal pact of Taro and Safitaro's life was rooted in the wild heart of Tsavo, a vast expanse in Kenya where the earth thrummed with ancient vitality. Born in a sun-scorched village on the fringes of Tsavo National Park, he grew up surrounded by the savannah's pulse, crimson dawns painting the horizon, the chatter of weaver birds in acacia trees, and the deep bellows of elephants echoing through the night. His father, Maku, a grizzled park warden with a voice like rolling thunder, was Taro's first teacher. As a boy, Taro trailed him along dusty trails, his small hands gripping Maku's rough ones, learning the wild's language, the curve of an oryx's tracks, the warning screech of a francolin, the faint tremor of a lion's roar carried on the wind. Maku's stories of cheetahs racing the wind, of rhinos standing like stone guardians, of hyenas laughing under starlit skies, filled Taro with wonder. But Tsavo was a land of stark contrasts. Droughts withered crops and dried rivers, leaving villages desperate and animals starving. Poaching cast a relentless shadow, with elephants felled for ivory, leopards hunted for pelts, and pangolins stolen for their scales. At 12, Taro stumbled across a poached buffalo, its massive frame collapsed, its horns hacked off, its calf bleeding in despair. The sight burned into his soul, igniting a vow to protect the wild. He poured himself into his studies, won a scholarship to a ranger academy in Nairobi, and returned to Tsavo, his father's weathered hat on his head and a fire in his heart to defend the land that raised him. Each morning, as the sky bloomed with hues of coral and amber, Taro set out on patrol, his old rifle slung across his shoulder and his boots crunching on red earth. Tsavo stretched before him, a rugged tapestry of thornbush plains, rocky kopjes, and shimmering rivers that glinted like silver under the sun. It was home to prides of lions lounging on sun-warm rocks, herds of impala grazing in the haze, and elusive cheetahs that streaked across the grasslands like bolts of lightning. The park pulsed with the seasonal migration of wildebeest and antelope, a thundering tide of hooves that shook the earth, drawing predators and scavengers in a timeless cycle. Yet danger loomed. Poachers prowled under moonless skies, their snares and bullets a silent scourge. Climate change brought blistering heat waves and erratic monsoons, straining the ecosystem's delicate balance. Villages on Tsavo's borders clashed with wildlife, their livestock tempting hungry predators, leading to retaliatory killings. Taro and his fellow rangers were the park's shield, their days a grueling blend of tracking prints, rescuing trapped animals, and teaching communities to coexist with the wild, a ceaseless battle to preserve a world under siege. One dew-soaked dawn, as mist clung to the ground and the first rays pierced the haze, Taro's sharp eyes caught a faint ripple in the tall grass near a dried-up streambed. A prickle of unease tightened his chest. He eased his battered truck to a stop, grabbed his pack, and followed a trail of crimson droplets staining the soil. His heart pounded as he pushed through the brush, then froze. Beneath a sprawling fever tree lay a young female cheetah, her sleek coat matted with dust and blood. A steel trap had clamped her hind leg, its jagged teeth biting deep, leaving her trembling and gasping. Taro's training steadied him. He crouched low, his voice a soft hum to soothe her. The cheetah's amber eyes met his, sharp with pain, but holding a flicker of trust. With trembling hands, he pulled bolt cutters from his bag. Each cut of the trap's wire was deliberate, the metallic clanks echoing in the still air. Sweat stung his eyes, but he worked on, freeing her at last. He cleaned the wound with antiseptic, wrapping it in gauze to ward off infection. The cheetah stirred, her breathing less ragged. Taro stepped back, giving her space. She rose, wobbling on 3 legs, and locked eyes with him. In that moment, he named her Safi, Swahili for pure, for the clarity in her gaze. With a graceful bound, Safi vanished into the grass, leaving only the mangled trap and a faint trail of paw prints behind. That encounter seared itself into Taro's soul, deepening his resolve to protect Tsavo's fragile heart. Weeks passed, his patrols settling into a rhythm of checking fences, monitoring waterholes, and mediating disputes between villagers and wildlife. He visited schools, teaching children about the importance of the wild, showing them casts of paw prints and telling stories of Tsavo's creatures. One golden afternoon, as the sun dipped low, Casting long shadows across the plains, he spotted a sleek silhouette on a rocky ridge. It was Safi, her scars faint, her stride strong. She watched him, her gaze calm, not predatory. From that day, Safi became his silent shadow, trailing his truck along dusty trails, her presence a quiet comfort. His teammate, Nia, a quick-witted ranger from a nearby village, was skeptical. "Cheetahs don't bond, Taro," she said, her arms crossed, her brow furrowed. "She's a hunter, not a friend." Taro smiled, unfazed. "She's more than that, Nia. She knows we're fighting for the same thing." Time softened Nia's doubts. Safi never hunted near Taro, instead perching on boulders or low branches, her eyes tracking his movements. Nia, whose mother had been a renowned Savo tracker, brought her own wisdom, reading paw prints like a map, using drones to spot poachers' camps, and blending traditional knowledge with modern tools. She and Taro became a formidable team, their trust forged in long days under the relentless sun. Safi's presence steadied their patrols, her quiet vigilance a balm during tense moments. Taro learned her signals, a flick of her tail for danger, a soft chirp when the plains were calm. Safi, in turn, seemed to sense his purpose, once guiding him to a wounded gazelle during a patrol, as if trusting him to ease its pain. Their bond grew into something extraordinary, a wordless pact that felt as ancient as Savo itself. Their connection became a whisper among rangers, then a tale for tourists huddled around campfires. Taro and Safi's story spread through the park, drawing curious visitors who hoped to glimpse the ranger and his cheetah. One twilight, as the sky burned crimson and violet, Taro saw Safi atop a granite outcrop, her silhouette sharp against the fading light. Her gaze felt like a vow, a shared promise to guard the wild. The moment lingered, a thread weaving their worlds together. But Savo was unforgiving. A brutal dry season brought a wildfire, sparked by a lightning strike that roared across the plains. Smoke choked the air, and animals fled in panic, zebras scattering, vultures circling above. Taro and his team battled the blaze, digging fire breaks and guiding wildlife to safety. Safi appeared, her agility a lifeline as she led Taro through a wall of smoke to a trapped herd of impala. Together they freed dozens of animals, including a young elephant calf, its trunk curled in fear as Taro coaxed it to a riverbank. Nia, coordinating evacuations from a lookout, radioed her astonishment. "She's your partner, Taro. I've never seen anything like it." The fire was tamed after days of grueling work, but it left blackened scars across the land and displaced herds. Safi's role in the rescue became a legend, her name spoken with reverence by rangers and villagers alike. Months later, a merciless drought gripped Tsavo, turning rivers to cracked mud and driving animals to desperation. A herd of buffalo, crazed by thirst, tore through a southern sector, smashing fences and threatening a tourist lodge nestled among acacias. Taro worked frantically to evacuate guests, guiding them to trucks as dust clouds rose. But a sudden shift in the herd's path trapped him on a low hill, the ground quaking under their hooves. Their snorts and bellows drowned out all else, dust stinging his lungs. Fear gripped him, his escape routes cut off. A piercing yowl split the chaos. Safi surged from the tall grass, her lithe form a streak of gold as she planted herself between Taro and the herd. Her snarls and flashing claws startled the lead buffalo, slowing their charge. She darted through the herd, her movements precise, drawing their attention. The buffalo hesitated, their momentum faltering. Taro seized the moment, scrambling to a rocky ledge above the fray. From there, he watched Safi hold her ground, her courage a beacon in the haze. The herd turned, their bellows fading as they retreated into the distance. Taro slid down, his legs shaking, and knelt beside Safi. She was panting, a small gash on her shoulder, but her eyes burned bright. "You saved me, Safi," he whispered, his hand hovering near her flank. She chirped softly, a rare gesture, then limped off to rest. Taro drove her to the park's veterinary clinic, where she healed under careful watch. News of her bravery spread like wildfire, earning her a place in Savo's heart, a cheetah who defied instinct to protect a human. As Safi recovered, Taro visited daily, her soft chirps greeting him like an old friend. Their story inspired rangers and tourists, a testament to trust across species. When Safi returned to the wild, she resumed her vigil, trailing Taro's patrols like a guardian spirit. He began sharing their tale, speaking to schools and visitors, urging them to protect Tsavo's fragile beauty. Nia joined him, her skepticism long gone, weaving Safi's courage into her own talks about conservation and coexistence. One stormy night, poachers slipped into Tsavo, targeting pangolins for their scales. Taro led a patrol to intercept them, moving silently through the rain-soaked dark. They found the poachers' camp, hidden in a thicket, but an ambush scattered the rangers. Taro, alone, was cornered near a rocky gorge, the poachers' knives glinting in the moonlight. Despair crept in, his radio useless in the storm. A familiar growl shattered the silence. Safi leapt from the shadows, her eyes like embers, her sudden charge scattering the poachers in panic. Their shouts faded as they fled, their plans undone. Safi stood by Taro until Nia and the team arrived, her presence a shield in the downpour. The park bolstered its defenses, adding night patrols and infrared cameras. And Taro's bond with Safi deepened, their trust a fortress against the wild's dangers. A year later, a monsoon swept through Tsavo, turning streams into torrents and threatening a village on the park's western border. Taro joined rescue efforts, wading through knee-deep mud to save families and livestock. Safi watched from a nearby ridge, her silhouette a steady anchor in the chaos. When a young boy went missing, swept away by a swollen creek, Taro searched frantically, his flashlight cutting through the rain. Safi, sensing his urgency, led him to a tangled thicket where the boy clung to a branch, shivering but alive. Taro pulled him to safety, wrapping him in a blanket as the village cheered. They hailed Safi as a hero, their gratitude etching her name into their songs and stories. The years brought new challenges. A surge in poaching, fueled by black market demand, tested Tsavo's rangers. Taro led night patrols, his team tracking a gang targeting rhinos. One moonless night, they cornered the poachers near a waterhole, but a firefight erupted. Taro was grazed by a bullet, his shoulder bleeding as he took cover. Safi appeared, her growl scattering the poachers' dogs, giving Taro's team the edge to apprehend the gang. At the vet clinic, as his wound was stitched, Taro smiled, knowing Safi had tipped the scales. Her role in the bust became a rallying cry, strengthening the park's resolve. Safi's legend grew, but the wild took its toll. One dusk, years later, Taro found her limping near a waterhole, her coat dull, her breath shallow. A vet confirmed she was ill, her body worn from years of trials, scars from traps, battles with rivals, and the weight of her loyalty. Taro stayed by her side, camping in a quiet glade where she rested beneath the fever tree of their first meeting. He spoke to her softly, recounting their adventures, the fire, the buffalo, the poachers, his voice a steady hum against the night. One evening, under a sky ablaze with stars, Safi's breathing slowed. Her amber eyes met his one last time, bright with something like peace. She chirped faintly, a final gift, and slipped away. Taro buried her beneath the fever tree, marking her grave with a smooth river stone etched with her name. Grief weighed heavy, but her spirit felt near, carried by the rustle of Tsavo's grasses and the sigh of its winds. Safi's death spurred Taro to fight harder. He rose to lead Tsavo's ranger team, training new recruits with her story, instilling a reverence for the wild that went beyond duty. He spoke of her courage, her trust, her unspoken pact to protect the land they both loved. Her legacy drew global attention, sparking documentaries and articles that brought funding for anti-poaching patrols, veterinary clinics, and community programs. Tsavo began to thrive, its wildlife rebounding, elephant herds growing, cheetah cubs playing in the grass. Human-wildlife conflicts eased as villages adopted new fencing and grazing practices, inspired by Taro's talks. Taro, now graying, became a mentor, his father's hat still perched on his head. He led patrols with a quiet strength, Safi's memory a guiding light. One evening he visited her grave, the fever tree's branches swaying in the breeze. As he knelt, a young cheetah appeared on a nearby rise, its eyes strikingly like Safi's, as if her spirit had returned to watch over him. Taro smiled, his heart full, knowing their bond had changed Tsavo forever. Years passed and Taro's work bore fruit. The park's ecosystem stabilized, its rivers flowing stronger, its plains alive with the chatter of life. He trained a new generation of rangers, each carrying Safi's story as a torch. Tourists flocked to Tsavo, drawn by tales of the ranger and his cheetah, their visits funding schools and clinics for villages. Taro's village, once struggling, now thrived, its children dreaming of becoming rangers, inspired by the man who walked with a cheetah. One twilight, Taro stood on a hill overlooking Tsavo, the savanna glowing under a violet sky. The air hummed with life, crickets chirping, a lion's roar in the distance. In the quiet, he felt Safi's presence, her chirps echoing in the wind. Their story, etched in scars, forged in trust, had become a beacon, a call to cherish the wild and the bonds that transcend species. As he turned toward camp, a soft breeze carried a faint chirp, a whisper of their eternal pact. If this tale of courage, trust, and an unbreakable bond stirred your heart, like and subscribe for more stories that celebrate the wild's wonders and the heroes who protect it. Join us to explore the magic of nature and the connections that endure across time.